And welcome back to another podcast from Hearty Wines today. We're going to touch upon the benefits of yoga, how we can start it, and what all value adds can we bring in our life while we start practicing yoga. Talking of yoga, we've got our expert today. His name is Mo Muhammad. He's a committed yogi. He's been balancing the challenges of a demanding career as a senior banker with his passion to teach, learn, and practice yoga. Mo, he's an engineer, MBA from IIT and IIM. Mo started practicing yoga rather late in life when he was about 39 years old. Like most of the yogis, he started with the active physical practice and found that it quickly moved into being a mindful and spiritual practice. This also motivated him to earn his teacher training. Mo likes to read about psychology, mindfulness, and meditation and correlate how new findings corroborate what yoga has been saying all along. So let's talk to Mo today. Let's learn something new about yoga, and definitely let's touch upon the benefits we can anticipate in our life, both physical, softer, psychological, while we tend to start practicing yoga. Welcome, Mo, to our show, to our podcast, Hearty Wines. Thank you so much for sparing time and be here with us. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Sachin. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast and a big fan of your podcast. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mo. So, like we always start with basics, right? Why don't you introduce yourself to your audiences, what your background and what especially brought you to yoga and why you choose to become a yogi yourself and you started teaching it.
It's always a fun question because now when I look back at my life, I find it the pleasure of being ordinary. I just had to study to make my life more successful. And got into the rat race, always trying to excel myself. And obviously that put a lot of pressure and stress on me. And I didn't even realize all this was happening. And ultimately, when the doctor told me that my cholesterol levels are slightly higher than they should be, my sugar levels are slightly higher than they should be, I got into gymming. And that's where I got in touch with yoga. And once I started practicing yoga, everything kind of just started getting better. My health improved, my tension and anxiety went away. I became a much less angry person. So earlier I used to be fairly short-tempered. Now I actually find it difficult to become angry at anything.
Okay.
So it's changed me so much. I think I just have yoga to thank for that incredible journey. So it's been a fairly ordinary life, but I think yoga has just made it special.
Fantastic. So Mo, tell us about, what are the hints, one needs to pick up, or what are the needs, where are the compelling reasons why one must go to yoga? Should I wait for something to happen with my body, my mind, or should I just try it for luck and just see how does yoga help me?
Oh, I don't think you should try it for luck. I think yoga is for everybody.
Okay.
Literally everybody. Once you're past a teenager, I think you need yoga. I don't think there are any signs, but generally, almost everyone I speak to has some form of anxiety, has some form of physical manifestation of that anxiety. So either lack of sleep, high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol problems, or some manifestation of these things. But honestly, I don't think you should even wait for these to develop. I think it's a great practice to have, not just for your physical self, but also for your emotional and mental self.
Okay.
Another important thing I think I'd like to just put out there is if you've got an acute condition,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think yoga can solve it for you.
Okay.
Not quickly, not the way modern medicine can.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, I would strongly recommend just go to modern medicine
Mm-hmm.
and get yourself fixed.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want long term preventative practices
Okay.
that not just nourish your body but also your mind and soul,
Okay.
I think yoga is the best answer.
Okay. So for novice like me, we associate yoga pretty much with the physical existence, the physical being, and how flexible we can become, how we can mold our body. Is it beyond physicalities?
Of course, of course. And what you're saying is very typical for people who want to come and learn with me for the first time. They're so defensive, and the first thing they say is, "We're not very flexible."
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where this whole concept of flexibility and yoga has come in. I guess it's basically the models who propagate yoga are
Mm-hmm.
so flexible. I personally am not flexible at all.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I might be very inflexible.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've discovered through yoga is I've become more flexible. I've improved my range of motion.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is a goal everyone wants to have
Mm-hmm.
for a few reasons. One, because if you don't practice yoga, you're going to become tighter.
Mm-hmm.
And as you age, your balance is going to become worse,
Okay.
increasing the risks of falls and, all of that.
Okay.
So wherever you are in your flexibility,
Mm-hmm.
a little more flexibility may not harm you.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, it's not just the physical flexibility
Ah,
that kind of struck me with yoga. It's this ability to get out of your own set ways of thinking, to
okay.
become flexible in the way you think, in the way you approach problems, the way you approach people.
Okay.
Uh, you become less judgmental.
So that's another intriguing point you're bringing in here, Mo. Uh, Through yoga, just explain, how does it really affect my mindset or thought process? Does it by any chance? And if yes, what are the changes I should anticipate, if I become yogi? And when I say yogi, I start practicing and I, embed this in my way of life. So what are the expected psychological changes do you think one can get?
Okay, so let me address the first part of your question
Mm-hmm.
first. How does it affect your mind?
Yep.
So I think modern science has given a very clear answer to that. There have been very clear experiments that prove the whole mind body connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you two simple examples
Mm-hmm.
to illustrate this. Suppose you're feeling sad or depressed.
Mm-hmm.
What they say is stick a pencil between your teeth
Mm-hmm.
like this. So what happens is your muscles in the face kind of get the feeling that you're smiling, and you
Mm-hmm.
just hold that pencil in for like 3 to 5 minutes. This The fake smile actually tricks your brain into thinking that you're not sad, and
Okay.
your mood kind of visibly changes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your physical body
Mm-hmm.
affecting your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And the second example is this placebo effect.
Okay.
So I'm sure you must have heard of it. It's, when they test new drugs,
Mm-hmm.
what they do is they give one set of patients the actual medicine,
Mm-hmm.
and they give another set of patients
Mm-hmm.
what they tell the patient is it's medicine, but
Mm-hmm.
actually it's just sugar pills.
Oh, okay.
And they see the impact.
Okay.
And surprisingly, even the patients who've just been given sugar pills
Mm-hmm.
will report
Mm-hmm.
and actually
Mm-hmm.
physically measure changes in their body
Okay.
that shows that they are improving.
Okay. Got it. So is it something like all is well? Where we reassure ourselves that things are going to be fine, things are
Yeah,
fine.
I think it's science says that it's the power of suggestion,
Okay.
and the thing that you're getting it from a trusted source.
Mm-hmm.
Your mind then influences your body
Okay.
and heals it.
Okay.
So we've established this connection between the mind and the body,
Okay.
and they both interact with each other.
Okay.
Now, I think what yoga does is by that physical practice, the asana practice,
Mm-hmm.
you tend to move your body. And
Mm-hmm.
one, the body loves movement. We were
Mm-hmm.
designed to move.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't designed to have these sedentary lifestyles. No offense, I know you're in the IT business.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't designed to sit behind computers all day. We
Okay.
were designed to move
Mm-hmm.
and, create
Mm-hmm.
and explore
Mm-hmm.
and have the adventure of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so the body just loves that movement.
Mm-hmm.
And what the asana practice then does is coordinate your body's movement with your
Mm-hmm.
breath.
Mm-hmm.
And then it tends to get your mind focused on the poses.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of get that union between your body, breath, mind,
Mm-hmm.
which rarely happens
Mm-hmm.
in your day to day life.
Mm-hmm.
Because you might be working, but your mind is racing somewhere else. You
Mm-hmm.
might be cooking,
Mm-hmm.
but you're thinking of 10 other different problems that you need to solve.
Mm-hmm.
You're never one. Your body, mind are always doing two different things.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads to a lot of dissonance.
Mm-hmm.
So when this union happens, I think it just sets about that whole healing process,
Mm-hmm.
and that starts changing your mind.
Mm-hmm.
You learn to understand what it means to be at peace with yourself, because
Mm-hmm.
peace begins with yourself.
Sure.
And if you don't give yourself that chance
Mm-hmm.
to be at peace with yourself, if you're
Mm-hmm.
constantly cooking and thinking of something else, working and worrying about your boss,
Mm-hmm.
you're never going to give that peace a chance. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's a good English song, let's give peace a chance.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's what
Okay.
yoga is
So
about.
before we move to mind and body connection here, we'll take a quick pause, and I want to understand, if meditation is a part of yoga, and then what are the various stages, one can start and aspire to reach into mind and body connection, right? Another intriguing question which most of us have is meditation a part of yoga?
Certainly is. It certainly is. In fact, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, the foundational text of
Mm-hmm.
yoga, mentions asana, I think, just once or twice. Asana is a physical practice.
Mm-hmm.
So he set out an 8 path uh, journey on
Okay.
yoga,
Mm-hmm.
and asana is just one of those. And he just mentioned it once or twice. A major part of that practice is meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And remind me, I'll come back to this later, why I believe asana is the most important.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're interested, the 8 limbs of yoga, and that's why it's called Ashtanga Yoga,
Mm-hmm.
is yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahara,
Mm-hmm.
dhyana,
Mm-hmm.
dharna,
Mm-hmm.
dharna, dhyana,
Mm-hmm.
and samadhi.
Okay.
So let's start with yama and niyama.
Yama niyam. Okay.
Yama and niyama are basically the avoidances in your life
Okay.
and the rules in your life that you follow, and these are common to everybody. It's like human traits of basic decency, of avoiding lying, cheating, stealing.
Okay. So it's
Uh,
it's not just the physical well-being what we're talking about. We're talking about prevention of uh, the bad things.
exactly. It's
Okay.
it's basically what you would do
Mm-hmm.
to ensure that society functions properly,
Okay.
and it begins with you. So if you avoid lying, cheating, stealing,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
you are contributing to a better society.
Okay.
And niyama are the practices that you should be following:
Okay.
commitment, dedication, and the rules that you set for yourself of spirituality,
Okay.
the
So
good practices that you
okay.
need to be following.
Okay.
So you have yama, niyama, and then of course asana. And asana literally means a pose or a
Mm-hmm.
posture.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so those are the first three, and
Mm-hmm.
then you get into breath, which is pranayam.
Mm-hmm.
Pranayam literally means the breath energy.
Mm-hmm.
Prana, life energy.
Mm-hmm.
Then you move on to pratyahara,
Mm-hmm.
which means withdrawal of your senses.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is, as humans, we tend to keep getting distracted.
Mm-hmm.
If someone is baking a cake,
Mm-hmm.
your sense of smell gets activated,
Mm-hmm.
and then you say, oh, what cake is that? Oh, it smells like a chocolate cake,
Mm.
and I must have some of it. And you see, it just gets you into a chain of thought.
Okay, so you're saying we need to control our senses
We have to learn
to
to
control.
understand
Okay.
first that it's our senses that draw us away.
Mm-hmm.
And once you come to that realization,
Mm-hmm.
you can start at least cutting down on sensations that don't serve you. For example, if
Mm-hmm.
you're really focused on this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of noise in the background
Mm-hmm.
will not even
Matter.
register in
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm-hmm.
mind.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is, you need to be focused on that conversation.
Okay.
So it starts getting you into that focused
Mm-hmm.
frame of mind.
Got it.
Then you go on to dharna,
Mm-hmm.
which is literally holding a thought.
Okay.
Normally, if you notice in life, it's difficult to hold one thought for any period of time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like monkey mind. You keep thinking a different thought,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very difficult to hold that thought. So
Mm-hmm.
dharna gives you that practice of just sitting with one thought.
Okay.
Dhyana is exploring that thought to where it leads you,
Okay.
going deep with that. So, for example, if you've decided I am going to focus on this flower that is in front of me,
Mm-hmm.
what about the flower are you focusing on? Is it the color? Is it the texture?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the arrangement of the petals?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the contrast with the stem?
Mm-hmm.
You know, just staying with that flower.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, you come to samadhi, which is your thoughts don't get disturbed by anything. You realize that your thoughts are the ones that cause you all the problems,
Mm-hmm.
all the pain,
Mm-hmm.
all the pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
And once you practice yoga, you tend to look at pain and pleasure the same,
Mm-hmm.
because we're forever avoiding pain, pushing away from pain, and going towards pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
A lovely insight that the Yoga Sutras give is that this whole moving towards pleasure is actually what causes you pain.
Okay. Okay. So we started with the basic of yama, wherein we are preventing, we are refraining from doing sins or bad things. I'm just generalizing, just trying to understand. Through niyama, we just creating some regime, discipline in our life, so that we continue our journey on that path. And then the various steps, of controlling our body postures, the senses, and of course the thought process, right, which is leading us to those senses and the attachments around it. Okay. Okay. So, and then the samadhi, is that the last stage?
That is the last stage where your thoughts no longer disturb you.
Okay. So which stage is meditation part of?
So that's a very good question, actually. And if you really analyze it, meditation covers everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because even the yama and the niyama, the avoidances and the discipline in your life,
Mm-hmm.
requires a fair amount of mindfulness. It requires an engagement
Mm-hmm.
between your mind and your actions.
Mm-hmm.
And there starts your meditation. That's your first awareness that your mind and your actions are connected.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
And you start getting into that purposeful living rather than living for the sake of pleasing others or pleasing yourself.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So your meditation starts there. Your
Got
physical
it.
practice, if you're practicing regularly, that the body movement itself becomes a meditation. It becomes like a dance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Breathing, you've got to start controlling not through your breaths, your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Because the minute you start thinking, you won't have control over your breath.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, pratyahara, dharna, dhyana are very obviously mental exercises where you kind of leave your body behind and focus on the mind.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not as if the body is not important.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that with the asana practice, you've
Mm-hmm.
now developed the ability to sit for
Mm-hmm.
long periods of time
Mm-hmm.
without feeling uncomfortable.
Correct.
And that's why the asana practice is so important.
Okay. Now this thing leads me to another intriguing question here. More is, uh, if we know how to, control our body and mind, and maybe bring it towards certain focus or concentration, what's your recommendation for the students, who've got a shorter span of focus these days? Um, is there any practice most of our students who are studying aim to do well in their career? What's your recommendation for them? Can they start yoga, or should they start with certain practices which help them build up the concentration?
I would certainly say start with a physical practice, an asana practice.
Mm-hmm.
It's great because it brings that discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Um, of course, I wouldn't recommend it for very young kids
Mm-hmm.
because that's the time to play. That's not the time to kind of get into serious yoga.
Okay.
But I think after puberty is
Mm-hmm.
a good time
Mm-hmm.
to get into yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. A lot of kids don't have the patience to go through a 1 hour practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I do teach sometimes a
Mm-hmm.
few kids that turn up. What I would recommend to them is find a teacher who can lead a very active practice
Mm-hmm.
because that helps burn off that extra energy.
Mm-hmm.
And the little meditation or the shavasana after
Mm-hmm.
that active practice
Mm-hmm.
really gives them that uh, feeling of staying focused, of
Mm-hmm.
not fidgeting, of lying still,
Mm-hmm.
staying with the breath.
Mm-hmm.
And once that practice starts,
Mm-hmm.
they get it. They realize what it means to be peaceful
Mm-hmm.
as compared to be constantly distracted by
Mm-hmm.
your Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
TikTok, what have you.
Okay. And since we're talking about students here, it's important to talk about their family, especially father or mother who's been into the long working hours. What's your recommendation for the corporate world, who tends to drive for a long hours, work for a long hours? And I've seen most of us struggling with back aches, neck aches, the stiff body, the cold shoulders, frozen shoulders. There are a lot of other physical problems which we most of us go through. What's your recommendation for us?
So one is, of course, if you can spare the time, which
Mm-hmm.
I think you should,
Mm-hmm.
at least 1 hour a day, set it aside for your yoga practice. And I know people will tell me, I don't have the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like the minute I get up, it's on the go, on the
Mm-hmm.
go, on the
Mm-hmm.
go. But you see, that's what has led us to the problems that we face today. It's literally the same thing like saying, I don't have time to cook a meal,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore I'm going to eat fast food. And
Mm-hmm.
we know what that does to us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's literally getting your priorities right.
Okay.
And I know it's a difficult choice,
Mm-hmm.
but fear not.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you can't spare that whole 1 hour,
Mm-hmm.
there are certain simple stretches, simple exercises that you can do to give yourself a little break. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, you're sitting at your desk.
Mm-hmm.
We have the tech with us. Set a reminder on your computer
Yeah.
after every 1 hour,
Mm-hmm.
time to take a break.
Mm-hmm.
And just do simple exercises, simple stretches like inhale, take your arms up,
Mm-hmm.
or push your elbows out to the side, tilt your head up, down, turn your neck around.
Mm-hmm.
If you can, stretch your legs out,
Mm-hmm.
go for a simple walk, come back just for 1 or 2 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
but your body will thank you for it.
Of course.
One, hopefully you will solve your postural issues.
Mm-hmm.
Two, you won't have stiffness.
Mm-hmm.
And three, that mind body connection starts moving in.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've taken a break from that work that you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
you come back, you're much more efficient.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty. So
course.
just do that.
Of course. Now, since we're talking about students, their family, mother, father, let's talk about our senior citizens too. I mean, it's somebody who's aging up well, take a walk, but, once they are 50 plus, the bones are not as stronger as, it used to be earlier. Are there any recommendations for our senior people to keep their body moving, make sure that their bones are fine? Would you have any recommendations for
Of
them too?
course, of course. I mean, there is all kinds of variations for yoga. You can do chair yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And for the seniors, or not just seniors, for people who've got physical impairments,
Mm-hmm.
like suppose you've injured a leg,
Mm-hmm.
there are always alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
So just because one part of your body is down
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean you neglect the rest.
Mm-hmm.
You can still modify your practice and at least keep moving with whatever you have.
Okay.
So keep your mobility up.
Mm-hmm.
And for seniors, I sometimes teach seniors as well. You just make it a much more gentle practice.
Okay.
You make sure that in case they're doing balance poses, they're
Mm-hmm.
supported, they
Mm-hmm.
have something to hold on to in case they feel like they're falling.
Mm-hmm.
But there is no excuse not to be mobile
Mm-hmm.
at any age. At any age. So
Sure.
just
While we were talking about this more, is it a fair practice, and should I, state my acute physical problems if I've got any, any lungs issue, back issue while I'm trying to start yoga? What do you recommend? Should we clearly lay that these problems out if we've got
yeah.
any?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So one thing I must let people know is yoga teachers are not doctors.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a lot of people who come and say, I've got scoliosis of the spine.
Mm-hmm.
What am I supposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
So I can help you with the posture
Mm-hmm.
overall.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've got an acute scoliosis of the spine, you
Mm-hmm.
might require surgery.
Oh.
I I can't fix that. And no amount of yoga is
Mm.
going to fix it
Okay.
because it's genetic.
Okay.
It's very tall people end up having that problem just because they're so tall. Now, probably if they'd started yoga at an earlier age,
Mm-hmm.
the condition might not get very aggravated,
Mm-hmm.
but chances are just because of the
Mm-hmm.
genetics, they will get some form of it.
Okay.
But again, yoga can make it milder.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's an acute problem, a yoga teacher is not going to fix it.
Okay.
But do talk to your yoga teacher
Mm-hmm.
about whatever conditions you have,
Mm-hmm.
because while the yoga teacher is not a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
they are aware
Mm-hmm.
of how to handle you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say if you've got slip disc. Now, the
Oh.
slip disc, the bulge could be posterior or anterior.
Mm-hmm.
And based on that, the doctor would have told them don't do back bends or don't do forward
Forward
folds.
ones. Okay.
So now, the minute that information comes to the yoga teacher,
Mm-hmm.
the teacher is in a better position to give you asanas that are more appropriate
Got it.
for your condition.
Absolutely. That's an interesting point. More, there is another point, which we keep hearing about, yoga being associated with some sort of Sanatan practices. For example, not many start practicing the Surya Namaskar. And you being more, Muhammad, have you ever faced those refrains, or have anybody come back to you and told you, you being Muhammad, why you doing yoga or teaching yoga? Would you want to put some light on that?
No, honestly, I've never been asked that. And the way I've learned yoga, I don't think there's been any religious influence. It's just a lovely practice from
Mm-hmm.
ancient India.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think it's for all people at all times. And I don't see any religion. I mean, the Yoga Sutras do talk about a divine.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't define a god.
Mm-hmm.
You can follow whatever religion you would like to,
Yeah,
and I don't see any connection.
absolutely. So you're saying that it's a body exercise. It's the way you sharpen your thought process, but it has got nothing to do with any particular religion, right? Okay.
At least not in my experience.
Okay. Okay. Um, Another last recommendations from you, Mo. We've got people who've got substance abuse, certain sort of addictions to, smokes or vape, or there are whole lot of options available back there, and people get addicted, which definitely influences their body, their thought process. Would yoga or meditation by any chance would help them build up a willpower or take control of the situation there?
I think it does, but I must caveat what I'm saying by making it clear that I don't think yoga can be considered as a cure.
Mm-hmm.
If you think a cure is needed,
Mm-hmm.
these are conditions that are very complex,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very easy to blame the
Mm-hmm.
person doing it. It's very easy to say, oh, they lack willpower,
Mm-hmm.
when actually science is now telling us it's very complex. It's not just willpower,
Mm-hmm.
it's a whole set of issues. Sometimes it's genetic,
Mm-hmm.
a predisposition to uh, substance abuse or alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
um, so it's very complex. It's the kind of environment you've been brought up in,
Mm-hmm.
it's the kind of friends you've had along your journey in
Mm-hmm.
life. um, so it's so complex, and even science doesn't have the answers to it. um, but I wouldn't like to say yoga is a cure,
Mm-hmm.
but yoga can certainly be used as an excellent support
Okay.
for anyone on the journey
Mm-hmm.
to kind
Sobriety.
of
Yeah.
either sober up or
Yeah.
to remove these influences that they believe are
Mm-hmm.
negative.
Mm-hmm.
um, I think yoga is a very good support. I'll give you an example. So when I was doing my teacher training
Mm-hmm.
in, this was in New York,
Mm-hmm.
for yoga, there were a lot of
Mm-hmm.
students who actually used to be addicts,
Mm-hmm.
and then they experienced yoga,
Mm-hmm.
and that pushed them on the journey
Mm-hmm.
to kind of get away from their addiction
Mm-hmm.
and get into yoga full time, to the extent that they now wanted to become teachers and
Mm-hmm.
pass on their knowledge. So it is powerful. There is a powerful influence. And what they told me, it struck me, and I remember it even till today,
Mm-hmm.
is that the kind of peace and calm and bliss
Mm-hmm.
that they got
Mm-hmm.
when practicing yoga
Mm-hmm.
far exceeded
Okay.
any drugs. And they
Yeah.
got this peace and bliss
Mm-hmm.
without any of the the
Side effects. Yeah.
bad effects. In
Yeah.
fact, if anything, it just made them better people.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think yoga has a huge role to play,
Mm-hmm.
but please don't think of it as a cure all.
Absolutely. Another intriguing question which we keep hearing, and I think most of the people associate yoga with either building up flexibility or reducing weight. Are there any specific postures or practices from yoga which help people reduce or control weights?
Okay, I'm
Commonly
laughing.
asked questions. Yeah.
I'm laughing because this is one of those few things that do get me angry.
Hmm.
I do see a lot of advertisements for yoga, which is kind of positioned as something that'll help you lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think yoga is meant to you lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
If that happens to you as part of your journey, it did
Mm-hmm.
for me,
Mm-hmm.
well and good.
Mm-hmm.
Again, why we put on weight and
Mm-hmm.
how we lose weight is a huge amount of science.
Okay.
But I think one thread in that science that I would like to pick up and highlight is we tend to put on weight when we're not happy with ourselves, when we are stressed, when we are anxious,
Mm-hmm.
when we feel there is a hole in us,
Mm-hmm.
and we try to fill that hole with food.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or if we're anxious,
Mm-hmm.
we make poor choices
Mm-hmm.
about what we put into ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think what yoga does is provides that clarity,
Mm-hmm.
removes the anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
gives you bliss,
Mm-hmm.
allows you to not judge yourself
Mm-hmm.
for your physical dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is key, because once you've put on the weight,
Mm-hmm.
then the next round of negativity starts.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't look good. Why? Because magazines tell us
Mm-hmm.
that this is not the way you're supposed to look.
Mm-hmm.
But no one stops and says, who are those people to tell me
Mm-hmm.
how I should be looking?
Mm-hmm.
And yoga kind of just makes this clear that there's a whole world out there, and it'll keep influencing your thoughts. You remember what we spoke about meditation? You tend to take control of your thoughts and say, no, I can push back on this.
Okay.
Once you stop feeling bad about yourself, I think that's half the battle won. Then it's figuring out what gives you peace, what gives you bliss. And yoga certainly helps there too. I think then you just get into a virtuous cycle, and then you realize, why am I putting this food in my mouth? Do I need it? What hole am I filling? There is no hole anymore.
Okay.
I think that's where the change comes.
Okay.
And I really, really, really hate it when, certain yoga studios say, oh, come for weight loss. And
Okay.
it's really sad, because that's not the purpose of yoga.
Thank you so much more for breaking that myth, because I think that's one tagline which I hear from most of the yoga studios across the world. They advocate weight reduction with the yoga practices. Okay, now coming back to the benefits. Okay, please highlight 4 to 5 common benefits if I start practicing yoga now. 6 months down the line, I know you're not going to guarantee anything, but if I'm going to be a diligent yogi, and if I start practices, of course I don't promise to cover all the 8 stages, but what are the common benefits one can anticipate if they get into a yoga practice, let's say for about half a year or 6 months?
Okay, lovely question. I won't guarantee, but I can almost guarantee one, at least the physical benefits. You will see an improved mobility and improved flexibility. Not just that, you will see improved strength, improved balance, improved coordination.
Okay.
And this is another myth about yoga, that yoga is only about flexibility.
Yeah.
Actually, it's about flexibility, it's about strength,
Yeah.
it's about endurance, especially if you do an active vinyasa flow. You really have to control your breath to be able to get through that whole series. So it's about all of that, plus it's about balance.
Okay.
So you'll certainly see improvements in those areas, and I can almost guarantee it for you, because I have had a bunch of students who've been practicing with me when I was back in Muscat for more than 9-10 years. And even here in Sydney now, I have people who've been practicing with me for more than a year, and I've seen the difference, and it's so gratifying to see them improve in just the physical aspect of their yoga journey. So that's just the physical aspect.
Okay.
The second thing that I think yogis learn pretty quickly is the connection to breath, and the way the breath connects the body and the thoughts and the emotions. So I'll give you an example. You can breathe really sharp and short for 2 reasons. One is you're running and you feel puffed and you feel out of breath. And the second is you're anxious and your breath will just go crazy. And you're just sitting, but your breath will go crazy. Your heart will go crazy. Half the time you don't know what's causing all this and you're freaking out. But with yoga, you kind of realize, hey, I'm not running. Why is this happening? I must be anxious. Okay, what is my anxiety? And you go down that rabbit hole. And you realize you actually take the time to understand yourself. And once you do that, that's half the battle won. You know how to deal with that situation.
Okay.
So the second benefit is the mind, breath, body connection.
Okay.
The third one is mental peace and stability. You feel you've got a lot more space to just think. Because otherwise you're just kind of reacting to situations in life. I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Bosses at me, family demands. This kind of sometimes gives you that space, and you learn to prioritize what is important. And the mind kind of starts calming down. So that's number 3. And number 4 is, I think, the most touted side effect of yoga is a feeling of peace,
Mm-hmm.
a feeling of acceptance. I think that's the key. You learn to accept because you realize you can't control most of the things that happen in life.
Mm-hmm.
So you end up focusing or hyper focusing on only the things you can control.
Mm-hmm.
And if you realize it's out of your control, there's no point losing sleep over it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no point getting anxious over it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no point getting depressed about it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it just gets you into that beautiful place. So those are the four things that I hope someone, with a 6-month practice should start
That's
realizing.
fantastic. So, in a way, I think we can definitely see a valuable changes in our life in a span of 6 months. Should we start following the basic level of yoga and get into a certain regime? Well, that's wonderful. Any word of cautions for the yogis who's going to start after listening to this podcast? Any quick word of recommendations for our audiences? Because deep down somewhere in our heart, most of us wants to start yoga, or we've already started our journey. But if we still lack something, what's your quick recommendation for us?
So two, three things really. One is please start.
Okay.
I mean, just find, and I would strongly recommend find an in-person teacher.
Mm-hmm.
All the Zoom and YouTube doesn't work. Not for
Mm-hmm.
beginners, please. If
Mm-hmm.
you're intermediate or advanced, yeah, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a beginner, please
Mm-hmm.
find a teacher you like
Mm-hmm.
and you vibe with,
Mm-hmm.
because no two people are the same.
Mm-hmm.
And you might have to go to 2, 3, 4, 5 teachers to
Mm-hmm.
figure out who it is that meets your requirements the best.
Mm-hmm.
So do that, one. Two, don't get your ego into your practice.
Mm-hmm.
Because when there is, like, I'll give you an example. Sometimes you are given a difficult position,
Mm-hmm.
and then your ego kicks in and says, why can I not twist so much?
Hmm.
I'm going to force myself and I'm going to
Hmm.
twist.
Hmm.
And if there's a battle between the ego and the body,
Mm-hmm.
let me assure you, the body always wins.
Okay.
As in, what will happen is something will snap,
Yeah.
something will break.
Okay. And the yoga regime will get a break and we can't move forward.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so much for your ego. Your ego will get you nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So practice with commitment, but
Mm-hmm.
honor your limitations. No
Correct.
one is perfect,
Mm-hmm.
not even your yoga teacher. There are
Mm-hmm.
so many poses even I can't do.
Okay.
Accept that as part of life.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever you do, do it with commitment. Do it
Mm-hmm.
with sincerity,
Mm-hmm.
with full awareness of your limitations.
Mm-hmm.
And carry that into your life,
Mm-hmm.
because even in life, you're not going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So stop demanding that from yourself. Stop demanding that from others.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Okay, so we've all heard more today. Thank you so much, Mo, for taking us through this journey. I think that we've touched upon very important aspects of yoga, and especially for the people who have always wanted to get into that route. So it definitely helped me with this information, and I hope this also helps our audiences today. You can reach out to Mo and get certain recommendations on yoga. I will share Mo's contact details. Where is that you can find him on his website. I would urge you all. I mean, I'm personally going to start my yoga journey. I've been thinking about this since long, but I would urge you all also to give it a shot, a genuine ego-free shot for our well-being, definitely for our body and our minds. So with this, we will wrap up today's podcast from Hearty Wines on yoga, its best practices, and the benefits we should foresee when we start doing yoga. Thank you so much, Mo, for coming over here, spending time, and talking through our audiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sachin. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sachin. It's been wonderful. I love talking about yoga any time of the day or night. So people can reach out to me on www.somaguidance.com. That's SOMA guidance.com. And my email is available on the website. What I would say is we live in a world that's increasingly unsustainable, both corporate and individual. Corporates, in their blind chase for profits, or shareholder returns, are ignoring employee well-being, are ignoring climate factors, and as we can see, the results of climate change are all around us. Global temperatures are set to have already broken records into 2024, and things are only going to get worse and more unpredictable. It affects all of us as society. And as we become more and more anxious about paying our bills and getting ahead in life, we are damaging our emotional world, our physical health. And I believe yoga can provide solutions for both. From at a personal level, it makes us more at peace, happier, more focused. It allows us to prioritize what is important from what is just good to have.
Mm-hmm.
And if corporates start adopting yogic principles in their strategy, in implementing that strategy, and in rolling out yoga wellness programs to their employees, I think it makes a huge difference. So, this is where Soma Guidance comes in. If I can help make the world even just a little bit better,
Mm-hmm.
if I can help solve the climate crisis just even a little bit, if I can bring happiness to people even a little bit, I think my job would be done. So thank you, Sachin, for having me on your podcast. It's been absolutely delightful to
Thank
be
you
here.
so much, Mo, for joining us at Hearty Wines. Thanks, audience, for your support. You know now where to reach out to Mo. Soma Guidance. It's www.somaguidance.com.